Sydney Sweeney is building a list of a lot of haters out there, and now she's getting hate from Taylor Swift fans. Peter Dinklage clearly wasn't willing to do it, so because of that, Warwick Davis is returning to Harry Potter. And Iain Armitage is out and will never be Sheldon Cooper again. And hey there everybody, I'm Charles Prowl, this is Attention Span, and this is what we're talking about today as well as the timestamps, but don't skip ahead, and with that, let's continue. And first topic of the day, we're going to Iain Armitage. And Iain Armitage is one of the most popular child actors of all time, taking on the role of young Sheldon, but going forward, he said he'll never actually do the role again. And Iain Armitage almost didn't have the role of Sheldon Cooper because originally Jim Parsons wasn't the first pick for the role. With the reason being that Johnny Galecki was actually the first pick to play Sheldon Cooper because he had a lot more experience doing the show Roseanne versus Jim Parsons, who was only known for doing a Subway commercial, but Johnny Galecki didn't want the part, so Jim Parsons got it instead. And that definitely worked out in Jim Parsons' favor, where playing Sheldon, he became the most popular character on the show, which was why in the final 3 seasons, he was the highest paid actor, making $1.2 million an episode. But then Jim Parsons opted to end the show Big Bang Theory after the 12th season, even though they were offered a 13th, because he was making $400,000 an episode narrating young Sheldon, so he just didn't need to do the show anymore. And the way Iain Armitage was cast was he actually recited a 3-page monologue from William Shatner doing Star Trek, so because of that, they decided to hire him for the role. And young Sheldon was an undeniable hit, where 17 million people watched the pilot, but then for the finale 5 years later, it managed to get 9 million viewers, showing it retained most of its audience. And the show was so popular, they even did a spin-off to the spin-off with Montana Jordan and Emily Osment, which had so much success that it's actually going into a 3rd season now. But still, there were members of the young Sheldon cast who aren't happy about how the way Georgie and Mandy's been going, like Annie Potts, who played the grandma on young Sheldon, with the reason being that she's upset that she wasn't invited to come back for the show. And Montana Jordan was just asked if Iain Armitage would be returning playing Sheldon Cooper for the new series, and he said that's not going to happen because they don't want the show to be young Sheldon 2.0. Then there's also an issue timeline-wise where Iain Armitage is now 17 years old, and he doesn't really look that much like Jim Parsons, so the idea of him playing an older Sheldon Cooper doesn't make a lot of sense. So he did a really good job in the role, but it doesn't look like he's ever going to return for it. But now we're leaving the sitcom world for the Wizarding world with Warwick Davis, and Warwick Davis had a very big impact on our childhood despite being a little person, and because of that, they decided to bring him back for Harry Potter. And Warwick Davis holds the record for playing the most Harry Potter characters, being the only person throughout all 8 movies to do 3 different roles. With the most notable one being Professor Flitwick, where he was actually only 31 years old playing this part, even though he looks like he's 90 in the role. After the second Harry Potter, the movies began undergoing a change because Chris Columbus, who was the director of the first 2 films, who was previously known for directing Mrs. Doubtfire and Home Alone, left the franchise because they wanted to become more mature. So because that, Warwick Davis had a complete redesign as Professor Flitwick in the 3rd movie by Alfonso Cuarón, where the goal was to make him look a lot more realistic and less like an elf. And since Harry Potter, Warwick Davis has kept on working as an actor, but he hasn't had a lot of hits like the show Willow on Disney+, which only gathered 300,000 viewers an episode and was cancelled. But now, years later, Harry Potter is being rebooted as a TV series for HBO Max, and there are a lot of cast members from the original movies who want to return. With one big example being Tom Felton, who wants to play Lucius Malfoy instead of Draco Malfoy like what Jason Isaacs did, but the problem was he was actually turned down for that part where they hired another actor instead of him. And then there was also Matthew Lewis, who played the character of Neville, who said he wants to come back to play Professor Lupin, but he hasn't had any callbacks from the Harry Potter team. But as of today, the only actor who's 100% confirmed to be returning is Warwick Davis, who will be coming back to play Professor Flitwick. But the reason being that the Harry Potter team felt that Warwick Davis is a great actor, but he just never got enough screen time in the original Harry Potter movies, even though he's in every film, so they want to give him a bigger role in the show, which I'm all welcome for, and welcome back to the Wizarding world. But now for our final topic, the beautiful Sydney Sweeney. And Sydney Sweeney is loved around the world by a lot of people, but she seems to be getting a list of haters, and now to make things worse, she's getting hate from Taylor Swift fans. And for 7 years, Sydney Sweeney was in a committed relationship with Jonathan Davino, who started dating her when he was 33 years old and she was 19, and there definitely seemed to be a money dynamic in the relationship because he does come from a wealthy family in Chicago that owns restaurants. But then there were claims that Sydney Sweeney and Jonathan Davino broke up, with the claims that Sydney Sweeney cheated on him with Glenn Powell when they were making the movie Anyone But You. And the reason that had some backing going into it was Glenn Powell was dumped by Gigi Paris, who was his fiance, and during the same day they broke up, she unfollowed Sydney Sweeney on Instagram. But still, Sydney Sweeney and Jonathan Davino did stay together, and on New Year's Day they made this photo right here, which was showing a passionate kiss, implying they were still in the relationship heavily. But that definitely didn't hold because they were supposed to get married in May, but a month before Sydney Sweeney canceled, and since that point they've been broken up, and Sydney Sweeney to the public has been single. Which all changed recently when it came out that Sydney Sweeney was on a date in Italy with Scooter Braun, who she met at Jeff Bezos' wedding. And for a little background on who Scooter Braun was, he was the guy who signed Justin Bieber when he was just 12 years old after he saw Justin Bieber post a video on YouTube. And that ultimately made Scooter Braun a multi-millionaire, where he was able to make $60 million just off of working with Justin Bieber, and then he built a company where today he has a portfolio of around $300 to $400 million managing other talent. But Scooter Braun does have a lot of hate from the Taylor Swift community because he spent $300 million buying the rights to Taylor Swift's first 6 albums. And Taylor Swift was publicly pissed off with Scooter Braun because Scooter Braun bought the record label that owned those 6 records, and she didn't get a chance to make a bid on it. Taylor Swift has been on the record accusing Scooter Braun of getting Kanye West to make a bunch of attacks on her to try and diminish her reputation with the public. And after a 15-year relationship, Justin Bieber actually dropped Scooter Braun as a manager just to try and appeal to Taylor Swift and Swifties. So now it looks like he's on a date, at least in an early relationship with Sweeney, and Sweeney's getting a lot of hate for it. But honestly, I think Scooter Braun gets too much hate because it's just business and Taylor Swift has to realize that. But with that, I'm Charles Peralta. Please subscribe to learn something.